Due to one reason or the other, in recent years, we've all seen the prices of so many luxury watches dramatically increase. For Rolex in particular, nearly every model in the catalogue would demand an arm and a tooth when purchasing a shiny brand new piece at retail. So, what cost-friendly models are available on the market? Strap in as we unravel the most fantastic models that even Rolex wouldn't demand a fortune for. Now that we're underway, what better way to start us off than the 1966 Rolex Oyster Precision reference 6426. According to an article by Hodinkee, this reference was even dubbed to be the most affordable vintage Rolex. And to be fair, it's hard to argue. When you take up an Oyster Precision, one of the first things you'd notice is its sheer simplicity. And as a matter of fact, we dare to say it's one of the most to-the-point watches Rolex has ever built. It has a classic dual with a beautiful silver finish, along with a baton marker for better legibility. However, one of the major differences that truly keeps the Oyster Precision 6426 unique from other, less expensive models from Rolex is its manual wind movement. You'd have to unscrew the crown of the Oyster case basically every 24 hours in order to simply wind the movement. For the specs of the Precision 6426, it's 9mm thick with a diameter of 34mm. This stainless steel watch comes with a caliber 1225, or at least the majority, which in hindsight can, at best, give a power reserve of around 58 hours. Alas, it's a watch you could wear all day without ever really getting bored of it. The 6426's featured simplistic and attractive design would always grab your admiration. Here's an interesting fact about this model. Did you know it also shares the same reference number as the ever-rare and highly sought-after Rolex Commando? Before we talk about the next cheap but attractive Rolex watch on this list that you can find in the market, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about the classics within a Rolex catalogue? Perhaps you've considered Datejust, the Daytona, even the Submariner or Explorer, for example. All of these models, however, have one thing in common. Due to the strong desire and demand for obtaining one, you'd never be able to get one cheap. So what then can one do to satisfy their cravings? Luckily, there's always an alternative out there, and you'd be hard-pressed to deny the Rolex Oyster Date Precision 6694. The simplest way to describe this watch is the truth. It's a quiet classic, an unsung hero. Two of the good things about this watch are, firstly, the price point. It's an affordable entry model that can be seen for ridiculously low asking prices. And then secondly, there are so many awesome variations of it that almost certainly means there is something for almost everyone. On the building aspect, it comes with either a silver dial, a black silver dial, or even brightly coloured dials, which further iterates the fact it has so many options. Yes, a lot of people may not be attracted to its petite diameter, but it still feels somewhat large on the wrists, perhaps due to its thinner, flat case design, and face it, 34mm is unsurprisingly comfortable and easy on the wrists. Inside the timepiece lies a caliber 1225 movement, or even a 1210 on some older ones. But the caliber 1225 in question is a 17-jewel mechanism with an impressive frequency of 21,600 vibrations per hour. While it may have been originally crafted as a man's watch, it still looks quite at home on a lady's wrist and is most certainly one for the ages. The next watch we'd be talking about is the Rolex Air King 5500. Whose history dates back to 1945 during the Second World War. A general rule of thumb is that vintage Rolex watches are quite often the most expensive options out there, but sometimes they can get quite cheap with purchasing prices way less than the amounts required to get some of the least expensive current production models available on the market. Thankfully, out of the affordable vintage classics out there, the highly versatile Rolex Air King 5500 is one of them, sitting comfortably under the $5,000 price bar. If you're a fan of the underdogs, this timepiece is for you. It's not exactly a popular model among the average watch enthusiast, so it flies well under the radar. One of the very first things you'd most likely notice about the Air King 5500 is its size. With a diameter of 34mm, it's easily under the category of petite watches, and as for the design, it's pretty simple and elegantly classic. Two of the things you'd expect from a vintage watch. The beauty of the silver dial it possesses is one of the standout elements, and it does a wonderful job of wrapping it all up. Regardless of if you're wearing it as a daily wear or a dresser occasion, the Air King 5500 would never go out of style. Because of the import laws of the United States in the past to protect domestic watch companies, the movements of the Air King varied. It either had a caliber 1520, which featured either 17 or 26 jewels, or the caliber 1530, which had either 17, 25 or 26. With its first entrance into the horology scenes in the early 1950s, the Rolex Oyster perpetual date, reference 1500, easily makes it into today's video. One of the huge selling points about this watch in particular is its almost perfect ability to be suited on multiple occasions, as it is more than robust enough to withstand the daily rigors and even elegant enough to be worn with a shiny tuxedo for those grand red carpet occasions. When it was first released in the 1950s, the Rolex date served as a midpoint between the Rolex Air King because it had the exact 34mm diameter and the date function of its most obvious sibling, the 36mm Datejust. Similarly to the Datejust, it had the ability to be wound automatically while also having different dials and bezel options. Proudly being one of the cheapest vintage watches from Rolex, the 1500 has an exceptional value for money. Although most of the date reference 1500 watches you'd randomly encounter are completely made up of stainless steel, Rolex also makes versions in yellow and rose gold. For design, it has a 34mm case fitted with acrylic crystals, a common denominator of many vintage Rolex watches, unlike synthetic sapphire on most modern timepieces from Rolex. Another important feature of the 1500 is its automatic self-winding perpetual movement, which has been certified as an official chronometer by the official Swiss Chronometer Testing Institute, COSC. The year of manufacture determines the caliber movement. However, it is driven by a caliber 1565 or 1575 movement. This improved movement was distinguished for the 1575 by its high frequency of 19,800 beats per hour and a 48-hour power reserve, as compared to the caliber 1565's 18,000 beats per hour and 42 hours respectively. Another cheaper option that must be mentioned is the Rolex 1601 Datejust. This timepiece is just one incredible watch, point blank. It's easily one of the true members of a masterclass of unique, luxurious watches. Right from its precision to power, not only is the watch robust and awe-inspiring, but it has all of the elements you'd expect from an iconic Rolex watch. When it was first released in 1945, it had the title of being the very first ever timepiece to have its date function automatically maintained. It also had a perpetual design and function, which made it almost instantly recognizable to the average watch enthusiast. Another important pro of the watch is its impressive ability to be worn comfortably on the wrists thanks to its ideal 36mm case, which is big enough to easily read the time and date in any situation. Also, the Rolex Datejust Oyster Perpetual Stainless Steel has a magnificent and clean-looking bezel. For the dials, that's another impressive feature. While most of the rather traditional timepieces from Rolex have a simple white face, this one has a silver dial. The time markers are also simple and straightforward. Furthermore, the chronometer, which can be found wrapped around the dial, gives it a simple and highly functional look on the eyes. Rolex sure took their time when making this watch. Did you know that Rolex released a commemorative bracelet to celebrate its 40th anniversary as a brand called the iconic Oyster Jubilee bracelet? It was designed with the iconic Rolex Datejust watch series specifically in mind. However, the interesting part is that it was originally released to be a solid gold bracelet, although as the years went by, Rolex then released several other metal types for bracelets.